Well, this presentation can also be called 3 Proven Secrets for Reducing Stinking Thinking. And if you've been in the United States or anywhere in the world these days, you know that there's a lot of politics that are going on, right? And there's a lot of aggressiveness and a lot of things that are being posted on Twitter, Facebook, all over the world. And some of them, many of them, you probably could say there's a lot of stinking thinking that's going on. So what are some of the things that we can do about reducing this stinking thinking and to become a more fair-minded critical thinker? Well, first of all, we've got to start here with defining what is this thing called critical thinking. Now, I prepared this course, and when I was asked to prepare this course, I was like, I don't know what this thing is about. You know, I had to do a lot of research to be able to understand critical thinking. And here's just one definition of it, is critical thinking is the art of analyzing and evaluating thinking with a view to improving it. So really, in essence, it's thinking about your thinking and reducing our stinking thinking. Okay, so today, here in this presentation, I'm going to really talk to you about some 3 proven strategies that you could start using right away to develop solid critical thinking skills and establish a disciplined executive level of thinking and foster a powerful voice of reason, analysis, and creativity. So also be prepared. There are a couple exercises in here that I'm going to ask you to do. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pencil or pen that you could be able to utilize, I'm going to give you time to be able to actually think about your thinking as we're going through this. Additionally, what we're going to be covering here today is we're going to identify 3 main kinds of thinkers, and there's actually subsets of those thinkers as well. We're going to talk about practical framework for developing solid critical thinking skills, because there is a process to doing this. And then I'm going to give you another exercise that you can try out with your team members. If you're stuck on some aspects, like you'll see clarifying information, and I'm going to give you an exercise you could start to utilize right away called constellation exercise to identify related and similar concepts around a central concept. Okay, so most of the people that I talk to in my classes, webinars, are usually business analysts, project managers, leaders, consultants, and anyone who needs the skills related to those. And those softer skills, those are the critical thinking concepts that we're talking about today. This webinar, if you noticed, is under the concept of leadership in the leadership triangle that PMI provides. And really the reason for this is because leaders are those that think about their thinking, okay? So because they are managing people, leading, and providing a voice that is consistent and clear to the people around them. Critical thinking the framework that I just alluded to, that I'm not going to cover all the aspects of this, but I am going to cover the standards that are related to critical thinking, and I'm going to talk about the elements. Okay, these are the 2 components of them. And you notice here, this is your intellectual traits. These are actually traits related to leadership, humility, autonomy, integrity, courage, perseverance, reason, confidence in reason, empathy, and fair-mindedness. So this is what our framework is going to be related to during this presentation. So, right, we've already talked about the concept of reducing our stinking thinking, but what's really the problem is that much of our thinking is biased. It's distorted. It's so uninformed and downright prejudiced. And if anywhere on social media or on the news these days, you could probably point to a lot of examples of this. Okay? Also, the problem is stinking thinking costs us both in money and in quality of our life. Everyone thinks. It's our nature to do so, but much of our thinking left to itself that's uninformed is going to be downright prejudiced. Influence and thought, however, must be systematically cultivated. So what are the benefits of critical thinking? Why should you spend any time on this outside of this webinar that you get for today for one PDU? Well, the benefits of critical thinking is that a well-cultivated critical thinker really raises vital questions and problems, formulating them clearly and precisely. They gather and assess relevant information, and they use abstract ideas to interpret it effectively. They come to well-reasoned conclusions and solutions, and they test them against relevant criteria and standards. And they think open-mindedly with alternative systems of thought, recognizing and assessing, as need be, their assumptions, implications, and practical consequences. And they can communicate effectively with others in figuring out solutions to complex problems. Now, I originally created this course for a large retailer that is headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They had asked for the organization that I was working with to be able to develop this training for their project managers and business analysts because they were having issues with trying to be able to get decisions made and decisions being made well. They were having issues with everybody had to be in a meeting and everybody had to have a discussion and nobody could be excluded from that. Does anybody have those kind of issues in your organizations? Well, if so, well, maybe critical thinking can be able to help you to be able to help your team and your organization bring intelligence to bear on these meetings and also in these discussions that we have with each other. It helps us to enable us to command our emotions. And it's not to say emotions are not bad, are not good. It's just so that the emotions don't control us. We are in control of our emotions. It enables us to make good judgments and provides us with a satisfactory emotional life. Okay, so drum roll here. Secret number 1 is to analyze your thinking. Okay, so now this framework actually comes from an organization, and you can be able to look at this information on criticalthinking.org. Okay, and it's an organization that has created this framework called the Standards, the Elements, and Intellectual Traits. All right, so before we get into this, I'm going to give you a little pop quiz here. Okay, match the statement to the kind of critical thinker. So here's the statements A, B, and C, and then match these names of these 3 types of critical thinkers to the statements you think they would make.